Oh well, another day, another box set. Got to start being a little bit selective to protect my rapidly disappearing bank account. However, this one's an essential. Michael Schenker Group Live and Ready, 1980 to 1984. 5 CDs, a DVD, lots to read in the booklet, all in a very sturdy, thick, proper box. Hours worth of Schenker at his towering peak at the time. You know, his first foray post UFO, and he's basically untouchable, isn't he, at this period? One of the finest rock guitarists of his generation, with this spell of MSG in the early 1980s. The band's on fire too. We've got Paul Raymond, who scarpered from UFO to join Schenker again for a while before, UFO pulls them back in like they always did. Chris Glenn on bass, the mighty Cozy Powell thumping the drums. The only weak spot for me was Gary Barden, capable but not the best vocalist in my opinion. Yes, there were lineup changes along the way, and I'll get to them as we go through each CD and performance. First up is a show from Manchester Apollo on the first tour in 1980. That stupidly good debut album was and is spectacular. The majority of it makes up the set, along with a few UFO staples. I imagine you can probably guess which ones and write them down for yourself. It's all storming stuff, full of fire and energy. If you saw them on that tour, I did. It just shows how old I am. You may recall how great it was, in particular the majestic Lost Horizons and the UFO classics. As great as it is, Gary Barden does let the side down a little bit, in my opinion. His limitations are exposed somewhat, inconsistent, struggles with the higher notes. Maybe he was a bit nervous and overreaching, trying too hard. And some of the between-song crowd banter is somewhat cringeworthy. When he goes on about Manchester being such a great city with the best football team and tries to get the crowd to chant United with, limited to no success, you can just imagine tumbleweed blowing across the stage. He does get better, but iffy vocals apart, this set from the first tour has Michael on another level. The classic live album issued as One Night at Budokan from the 1981 Japanese dates is split over CDs 2 and 3. One of the greatest live albums, up there with the likes of Strangers in the Night, etc. The songs from the then unreleased second MSG album come out on top for me. For example, On and On, Let Sleeping Dogs Lie, and my favourite, Never Trust a Stranger. Barden sounds a bit more comfortable too. Disc 4 is Hammersmith Odeon in 1983. Lineup changes here. We've got Ted McKenna in on drums, and former Ted Nugent sidekick Derek St. Holmes comes in on guitar as well. The tour after the release of Assault Attack, and of course the great Graham Bonnet did the vocals on that album, though as we know from our history, don't we, he didn't last long, and here Gary Barden's back in on vocals. The performance saw the light of day originally as Rock Will Never Die. It's another muscular set with Schenker sublime as usual, and the Assault Attack songs slot in nicely, especially the majestically atmospheric Desert song. Still one of my favourites, that one. Disc 5 is from Tokyo in August 1984. By this point, MSG were running out of steam somewhat, and that was shown with the somewhat disappointing Built to Destroy album. A much different lineup for this performance to that which recorded Built to Destroy. Andy Nye and Ted McKenna remained. Barden had gone again, as had Clis Gren, and here we have Ray Kennedy on vocals and Dennis Feldman on bass. It's not a bad performance, though it does have something of a going through the motions feel to it. You can just sense that the end for MSG at this point isn't far away. The DVD has the Hammersmith 83 and Tokyo 84 performances. A nice watch, a couple of hours or so there. The booklet's a good read, comprehensive notes and an interview with Michael, who gives his perspective on this classic period of MSG. Interesting stuff. And it's so very nice to have all this in one place to enjoy just how Schenker, how great Schenker and the group were back in the early 1980s, and how it's still so fresh and upstanding to this day. In my opinion, one of the only guitarists who could have come near Michael back then was the very late, very great Paul Chapman. Ironically, the man who replaced Michael in UFO. And on UFO, just quickly, the Chapman era albums are seeing the deluxe edition reissues with accompanying live stuff. No Place to Run was released last year, and we've got The Wild, The Willing and The Innocent, which is due for release on the 1st of May, which is just about 3 weeks from today, which is the 4th of April 2026. So look forward to that, and review to follow, of course, when it hits the letterbox. But don't miss out on this MSG box set. Peak Schenker at his best. I mean, he never, subsequently or prior, he never did anything to touch this period, and that shows across the contents of this box set. Link to it in the description, as always, and please do check that out, and also do me a teeny tiny favour and subscribe to the channel before you disappear, because that's always appreciated and a big help. So there we are, unmissable box set from Schenker at his absolute peak. As always, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and take care.